A very warm welcome to everybody here. And we look forward to a very exciting afternoon and a very interesting panel discussion here. And also gives me immense pleasure to be, announcing the winners of the NIPP Mobility Challenge. So firstly, I'd like to just highlight everybody about, the whole process that we followed. NIPP picks a theme, which is the NASSCOM Industry Partnership Program. We pick a theme every year, in the interest of the industry and our partners, and run a nationwide idea challenge. The challenge is open to all startups all across the country. This year, we hosted the second edition of the NIPP Mobility Challenge based on the response that we received last year and the excitement that unfolded, culminates today here at this finale. At this stage, I really like to take the opportunity to thank all our corporate partners, our mentors and jurors who made this whole thing possible. It's hard work of a good 3 months from the NASSCOM team and our corporate partners and mentors and jurors. And I'd really like to acknowledge their contribution to this. I'd just like to quickly highlight, some of the the application. We got about 200 plus applications for this challenge, 27 use cases, 8 corporates who gave us these use cases and constantly mentored our startups through these programs. And we had over 30 plus industry experts who came together as mentors and jurors, without whom this just would not have been possible. We have a very exciting, panel as well lined up, here. And to get the panel started, which is on resilience in mobility, building intelligent and adaptable solutions to shape the future, I'd like to call upon our Senior Director and Head India Markets, Gaurav Hazra. Gaurav, the stage is all yours, and we look forward to this exciting panel discussion.
Thank you, Kritika. And let me welcome all the eminent panelists today. My name is Gaurav. I lead India Market for NASSCOM. I'm privileged today to have 3 very eminent panelists from the mobility automotive industry with tons and tons of experience to share, as well as give us the direction about where the industry is going, what mobility is looking at, and how do startups really engage with them. First of all, let me welcome Eric Apode. Eric is Senior Vice President, PCA Motors India. Had a long 33 years career with PCA. I started his career in sales and marketing, had the opportunity to work across roles like quality, plant operations, project and consulting in Europe. After working as DGM for DPCA and the JV between PSA and Dongfeng, that creating the China Tech Center, combining R&D, purchase and styling, he was later appointed CEO of CAPSA, the JV located in Shenzhen, South China, that he founded and developed. Back in Europe, Eric was appointed as SVP, Business Development and Profitability for the newly created DS Automobiles brand, and successfully managed to design a complete product portfolio of the brand launched worldwide. Since January 2019, Eric has been in India. He's leading the Monozukuri operations in India. Welcome, Eric. Welcome to the NIPP Mobility panel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor. Thank you.
Yeah. I also have Sachin Malhotra, Director Quality and Supplier Management for HERE Technology. Sachin Malhotra is a very senior executive with 20 years of experience in the IT industry. He had an extensive experience in running large operation project and process and project management. He currently heads the quality and supply strategy for global content operation, leading teams across India, Europe, and Americas with a significant outsourced footprint. Welcome, Sachin. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I also have Maneesh. Maneesh has the Ford Smart Mobility. He has an extensive experience in the smart mobility sector, as well as working for one of the largest automotive players in the US. He's worked both for General Motors and for Ford. Maneesh, welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Gaurav. Looking forward for a good discussion today.
Yeah, so good afternoon once again, and good afternoon everyone to this panel on smart mobility. Let me start by setting the tone about how the sector is really seeing an evolution, especially the mobility sector, and what kind of priorities are we looking at for all of these companies and the sector in general. So Eric, let me go over to you and sort of start with you. It will be really interesting for all of our startups and the tech industry to know, how do you see the mobility sector evolving in terms of standalone vehicles, tech components, software in cars, and business models? So love to hear, Eric, from you.
Yeah. Hello again. First of all, I would like to say something important. I don't believe the COVID is the only reason why the whole industry is going to change in the next coming months and years. Actually, before the COVID appeared, we already thought in Europe and wherever PSA is operating, that the industry would deeply change. And we used to say in PSA that PSA has more than 200 years history. It's back in the early 80s with Peugeot brand, and we were convinced that the evolution of the market would be huge in the next 10 years, even much more in the next 10 years than it was in the last 2 centuries. So it's for us very, very, very important to see that. And for me, the COVID is probably accelerating something which was going to happen, particularly interest to environment all over the world, to CO2, to electric cars, and so on and so forth. What COVID will probably accelerate and change deeper is the fact that more and more people will tend to be attracted by private transport instead of metro, bus, and so on. But for me, the trend towards electric, toward hybrids, toward more and more environment-friendly vehicle was already there. And so COVID, of course, is impacting massively the whole industry. But this was something which anyway would be going to happen.
Absolutely, very well summarized, Eric. Thanks for that. So, and let me quickly go over to Maneesh. And Maneesh, and I know that you had a great journey between General Motors and Ford, and so just to take your view, what do you think would be some of the priorities of the mobility sector in the next, say, 12 to 18 months? And you can always also add upon what Eric mentioned about the evolution, but also help us understand what might be the key priorities of the sector in the maybe short term, looking at the overall future, and also considering that the pandemic might warrant serious changes. So Maneesh, over to you.
Thanks, Gaurav. So yeah, the mobility sector, mobility has been there for, till the human civilization has been progressing. Mobility has been the enabler, and it will always be enabler for mobilization and for the upliftment of human race. What we see challenges right now is, especially with COVID, is the shared mobility is getting affected big time. There is a trend back saying that people will go back to ownership again, but there is a cost factor to it. And we need to now figure out a balance in between how do we address the safety, the hygiene, the cost factor, the convenience. And if I could summarize that, it's all coming down to personalization.
Yeah.
And personalization is becoming even more important in terms of making sure that we have solution and technology available that gives convenience, that gives the choice for people to make decision. And I see convergence of existing capabilities available, which is the public transport system, the private transport system, sharing, microtransit, all coming together and enabling that platform where people have the choice to do, because everyone have their own personal boundaries in terms of what choices they make. So having that ability to choose will be a great way to move forward in 12 to 18 months.
Thank you, Maneesh. And I think that's again a great summarization. Sachin, are you able to hear me, Sachin?
Yes, absolutely. Loud and clear.
Yeah. So let me quickly go over to you and sort of understand your view on where the sector is going in terms of its evolution. I know that you are deeply involved in the tech piece of automotive, working on overlays, working on variety of technologies, and really heading a company to do that. So your views on where this is going in terms of tech, in terms of all of these components, not just a standalone vehicle, but the overall ecosystem and models.
Yeah, interesting question. And I first of all agree with everything that that Maneesh and Eric mentioned. But just to kind of lay the ground here, Gaurav, where are we sitting today? And let's think of the India market more as an example than anything else. I think should apply in some way or form to across the world, minus probably China. But sitting where we're sitting, India's auto registrations have recovered back to about 40 to 50% of the pre-COVID levels, right? This does not include trucks per se, but all passenger vehicles, two-wheelers.
Sure.
There's a huge demand for two-wheelers. We're in touch with some two-wheeler manufacturers as our business partners, and for the first time in so many years, the dealers are after the manufacturers, right? So which is a very, very good sign. The web activity, on the internet, basically, Google search trends are back to the Jan-Feb levels, which is again pre-COVID, and probably a little higher than they were at that point in time for two-wheelers per se. So, like Eric and Maneesh mentioned, I think there is a huge need that has arisen for personalized transport, so to say.
Yes.
So all of that will continue to happen, and this is more data about India per se. But if you think about Europe, there is a lot of subsidies that are now being worked out by Germany, France, Italy, Spain to an extent. And these incentives or subsidies that the governments are now rolling out, are in places in certain countries 3x of what it was in the 2008-9 times. So essentially, how it looks is that this sector, while it faces its own challenges from the pre-COVID times, but from a COVID standpoint, this should see a V-shaped recovery, albeit in in probably different sectors, maybe small cars, two-wheelers, all of those things. Now to your question that you asked, I think one of the most interesting aspects of this whole personalization is the autonomous mobility that we've chased like a moving target, right, for years now. If when I joined this industry 10 years back, if I would have believed that, I would have been driving or not driving. I've been traveling in a driverless car today. But that's really not what's happened. Having said that, given what has happened and the fact that anything that reduces physical contact is witnessing a high demand, and this is one of them. The rise of autonomous mobility might be quicker.
Sure.
And those are a few things that are going to happen as we see. Again, I'll kind of still say that the future is unknown. Having said that, this is how it looks at this point in time.
So let me thanks Sachin. Thanks for the detailed response to this. I think this is really a lot of information for all of the startups who are here on the seeing the panel today. Let me change gears a little bit, Eric, for you. Given the sector might see large scale changes in terms of tech and business models, from electric vehicles to supply chains, and the shift to a large software component in cars and mobility business. What are some of the risks that the sector is looking at? Let's say disruptions that can cause negative impact or need large scale change management. I know that you've been a part of the automotive industry, and Maneesh and Eric, both of you, and Sachin as well, which has been pretty 100 years old, and has based its existence on building large supply chains of tier 1, tier 2 vendor development, very, very stable supply chains. How do you see all of this disruption working through that ecosystem, and what are the risks?
Yes, of course. My vision is the risks are extremely high, and it will take years to prepare and to adapt to these risks. And particularly when you thinking about the future death of IC cars towards electric or even more futuristic technologies, that's for sure. There will be deep impacts, not only on the supply chain, but from the, for instance, financial point of view, also on R&D, because it will need a huge and massive investment in all the areas of the auto industry. So basically, I think, of course, only some companies will have the ability to adapt. As you mentioned, for 150 years almost, we've been working on the same model. Now, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, it's completely changing. And the big risk is the weakest companies are the risk of disappearing. That's for sure, because we will need massive investment to be able to adapt. That's for sure for me.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Eric. That's lovely to hear. Maneesh, any comments on what Eric just said? Just love to understand how is the automotive industry seeing these disruptions, because all of us have seen the whole standard model for the last, as Eric said, 150 years of building supply chains, vendor development, and all of that. The next 10 years, as we all reckon, is going to be very different. What risk is probably Ford looking at? What are you looking at from your standpoint?
I think three specific areas I can think of, which one is the consumer behavior, right? I mean, the whole consumer demand in terms of what they expect from the service provider. Earlier, if you look at what Henry Ford said, if you ask the consumer, they would say, I need a faster horse. But now the consumer are very much aware, they are informed, and they are very clear about their requirements. So having that ability to understand user and really what they are thinking is very, very key. And that is what is, I think, one of the risks is if you're not connected with your customer base, if you don't understand what is happening, you could be off track. So I think that is one area. The second thing is it's not about being, winning it alone. I think collaborations and companies coming together. Of late, if you've heard, we just announced Ford and Volkswagen collaboration in terms of building product together. Rivian is another company that we've been investing in terms of electrification. Because what is happening is it's becoming more consumable product. It's no longer having that niche differentiation that ICE used to bring. This is just batteries with motor, and then the whole experience, the ecosystem that is created on top of it, which Tesla has shown is there. So this also brings, if you don't collaborate, if you don't join with other automotive players to do together, you would create that opportunity for third party to come in. And that's what, if you look 15 years back, everyone wiped out Tesla saying, oh, they are just a lab which is doing experiment, and today they are challenging the norm. And how do you do business? And I think the third thing is the policies that the governments are bringing, and what kind of norms would be there in terms of pollution, in terms of environmental issues, in terms of cybersecurity threats. These kind of things are going to change the way we are there. While I see them as risk, I also see them as opportunity. And having that ability to understand and play the curve and take that risk to bring things, because today you can compare ICE engine performance because of the standards that have been set, but there are no standards in the new world. So you have the ability to set those standards. And I think companies who are ready to take those risks and play in that, but cautiously, and that's why collaboration helps, because then you have economy of scale. You can have the supplier base that can help you, and then bringing the suppliers together to make the change is integral part. So that's how I see the kind of shift happening. But I think the whole connection with the customer and the ecosystem around it, which Apple has shown us, that phone is no longer a hardware, it's a software. And that shift I see happening also in the auto industry.
Very, very well said, Maneesh. I think it's all about the shift just beyond a vehicle to a whole ecosystem and connecting the client to the vehicle. I mean, I was, when I started my career selling to automotive companies 20, 25 years ago, I was always, impressed by the airline industry, how they created a whole industry out of an airplane. And I think that's the time has arrived for the automotive industry to do that. So this brings me to a very interesting and a very important part of this discussion. For years, the industry, the mobility sector, especially the automotive OEMs and all of their ecosystem, if I see the global map, maybe 10 years ago, everybody literally works with everybody else. In some countries, the same players compete. In other countries, they collaborate. They carry their brands to different countries, so on and so forth. I mean, the map is really, 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 really complicated. In the current times, we also see a lot of non-automotive players coming into this map. I think that's the key thing that, Maneesh, that you're talking about, that non-auto players who have nothing to do with automotive literally are going to challenge this ecosystem. So my question really is, if new age companies, or I will say early companies or startups or companies who do not traditionally come from the automotive legacy, they have to engage with automotive companies, mobility, new business models, working with you to increase software component in cars, customer experience, autonomous vehicles. Where do you see their role? So Sachin, let me flip this to you. How do you see their role increasing? How do they engage quickly? And then I'll go over to Eric and then to Maneesh.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like Maneesh mentioned, mobility or a car is no more a machine that gets you from one place to another. It's an experience in itself today, right? But to answer your question, there are different ways that the challenge is coming up, right? And just to give you an example of collaboration, the biggest example of collaboration is that we're owned by the 3 German car makers, right? Who pretty much compete in the market any and everywhere else. So there's obviously a need for collaboration in most markets, so to say. But I was actually reading about a new startup. I think Bangalore based, who's starting e-scooter on a subscription model. Now think of that. That could be really revolutionary in the times that we're living. At about whatever 3,000 rupees a month or some small number like that, you can pretty much have a personal mobility, if I may call it a device and an experience, right? So there are the opportunities are absolutely immense. It's just about who kind of grabs it first and is able to kind of capture the market. So that's where I'll leave it, Gaurav, on this one.
So Eric, let me go over to you and understand from an auto OEM perspective, what are the use cases that new age companies who are traditionally not auto companies or auto component makers engage in this time?
Yeah, definitely. I fully agree with what have just been said by my 2 colleagues. I think the major impact today we don't know these impacts, but the major impacts that we will know in the next years is probably and definitely, I'm totally convinced, coming from startups and coming from new ideas and coming from creativity. And I will tell you something, this is precisely one of the major reasons why we're in India. You know, PSA has come back to India in the last couple of years, and we will soon be launching new models next year in India to be in the Indian market. But the major reason is not do business in a traditional way in India. What we want to do and what we are currently doing is my role here, is to establish a sort of a hub to know, to learn, and to leverage the Indian creativity, to leverage the Indian frugality. And this is why we also started to discuss very, very closely and very patiently with startups here in India. We are observing, we are discussing, we are learning. We've already started on a very progressive way to work with startups here in India. Some of them are even now in touch with the headquarters in Paris, in France, to develop their knowledge, to develop their ideas. So we do believe in India creativity. This is a place where we were not yet, and we think that the time of high tech and of superpower and so on and so forth is over. Now it's the time of ideas, of creativity, and of fine change coming from the mind of the people, not coming from the mind of engineers. I think the customer-oriented is definitely very, very, very important here in India, and this is why precisely we want to learn from here.
Very, very encouraging response, Eric, and I'm sure these startups love your response. And very reason that you are in India to explore creativity and talent, extremely heartening to know. Maneesh, just quick, sort of a comment to this part of the question, and your guidance as one of the oldest companies in the automotive sector on earth. How do you see engaging with startup? What's your guidance? What are some of the key use cases where you engage or you would like to engage? This will give a huge, I would say, set of this is a good information for all the startups who are on the show today.
Yeah, so very interesting that traditionally, if you look at automotive companies, have been very risk-averse. Whether it's about designing a part, it's about manufacturing process, it's about supply chain. The relationship is always about scaling, about sustainability, about ensuring that things can go. But when we look at mobility, it's such a dynamic world. And here, I think if we go with that traditional mindset, we'll never be successful. So that's the reason why we have decided that we will work with startups. And sometimes we also do reverse mentoring with startups, where we ask them what do they think about the problem statement rather than we giving problem statement, and doing co-creation together. And we've developed few products like that. It's a change. We're trying to bring the change, especially in India. We have a huge development center. We have close to about 4,000 IT professionals here in Chennai who are developing and supporting application globally for Ford Motor Company. So we have an opportunity to kind of change the norm and try to do it. I think one guidance I'll give to all the startups is that there is no way you can compete in the auto industry with the auto giants. Best is to play in the data. Data is one area where I think it really gives an edge to anyone who can harness the power of it. But I think just data itself is not good enough. You need to understand how to use the data to a real problem statement. And if that mindset can be there, then adding artificial intelligence, machine learning to it, and coming out with value proposition, I think that's a great way to kind of collaborate and connect with most of the auto players. And I would say, why only auto industry? I think that gives an opportunity in the entire mobility sector, whether it's with government, utilization of their fleet, whether it's with the railways of just-in-time connectivity of last mile and first mile. The opportunity to actually solve people's problem is huge, and India is a market where we have that in abundance, right? So that's where I would give guidance: is play with the data, use the data in a smart way, solve people's problem, have that human-centric design thinking in terms of what problem am I solving, at what cost am I solving, and how I can scale this and go to multiple cities. If they bring that mindset, I think the opportunities are amazing.
So thank you so much, Maneesh, and that's a very clear and an honest guidance. I'll quickly go over to Sachin. I have exactly 2.5 minutes left on this panel, so I'll go to Sachin first. Sachin, your quick guidance to our startups. I know that you work with a bunch of them. A quick guidance to them, and then I'll close with Eric's comments on this.
I think everything's been covered, so I won't take too much time. My only two bits to the startups is basically, they should continue to stay nimble, right? I'll say some generic things, right? They need to continue to stay nimble, not pivot on say one use case per se. This is a real evolving situation in which we live today, right? None of us experts know, how this is going to pan out, how this is going to look in a few months from now or quarters from now. But one thing is for sure, and that's change. And this pandemic situation will trigger the change much faster. So that's something that we need to keep in mind and evolve as we move forward.
Good, Sachin. Thank you for that. Eric, your guidance to our startups. I know that you are in India for a very specific reason. What are those 1 or 2 things that you expect from them to be able to work with you?
Frankly speaking, as I already said, what we expect is don't be shy, don't create any barrier. We need to discuss on a very frank, open-minded way, because for us, India is totally different, totally new. We've been in many other countries like China, like Latin America, and so on and so forth. But we believe that in a market like India, where we are still in the takeoff phase of this market, we will know some very, very big changes that in mature markets you will not know. The mature markets are dominated by engineers, if I may say so. Here, the market, what's my feeling, it's dominated by the needs, the true customer needs. And this is what exactly we are expecting, a very, very collaborative and very open-minded and frank discussions. And frankly speaking, so far we have engaged in many discussions already. What we want to do is to go step by step, go on a very down-to-earth approach with proof of concepts, then gradually evolve and grow. We do believe that there's a win-win situation here, in which the India well-known sense of frugality and creativity will probably change the entire industry, and we are definitely convinced. And this is precisely what is one of my key roles here in India.
Great response, Eric, and I'm so glad that all of you could attend the panel today, and I'm sure that a lot of startups benefited from this discussion. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Sachin, and thank you, Maneesh, for joining us this afternoon on the panel. Over to Inchara.
Thanks, Gaurav, and thank you to all of our panelists for the informative session. A quick introduction. I'm Inchara Jagannath from the NASSCOM Industry Partnership Program, and without ado, we'll now come to the much-awaited winners announcement of the challenge. I would like to take a quick minute to thank all of our challenge partners. As the strategic partners, we would like to acknowledge BMTC, Ford Mobility, Here Technologies, Kone, Maruti Suzuki, NEC, the PSA Group, and Unilever. Our ecosystem partners include JK Lakshmipat University, Jaipur, Amity Innovation Incubator, Manipal University Jaipur Incubation Foundation, IncuSpace, Intelligyan, Maharashtra State Innovation Society, Supply Chain Labs, and TiE Bangalore. Also, we have a creative partner, Interactive Views. A special thank you also goes out to all of our mentors and jurors who have been involved in the challenge right from day one. They've put in a lot of effort in guiding the teams and ensuring that they get all the support that they require to give it their best shot. So here's a short video that we've put together in appreciation. Okay. So thanks once again to all of our mentors and jurors. Now, before we announce the winners, we have some exciting news for them. Besides being recognized as part of the NIPP Mobility Challenge, we also bring to you an exclusive opportunity in the form of the ITS Future 2021 Meets India event. This will be taking place on the 7th of July at 2:30 p.m. This is in collaboration with Hamburg Invest, the main partner for Hamburg's business sector in Germany, and Digital Hub Logistics, which is Germany's international network that connects corporate startups, research, and education all on a single platform. You can watch this event live on the Hub TV by logging on to the Digital Hub Logistics website on the 7th of July. So as part of the event, we offer the opportunity for 3 hand-picked winning startups to pitch to an international jury consisting of leading corporates in the field of mobility. And the winning startup gets a free showcase booth worth 1,500 euros at the renowned Intelligent Transport Systems World Congress 2021 in Hamburg, Germany. All courtesy Hamburg Invest and Digital Hub Logistics. Okay, so now all the participants have been waiting with high anticipation, so here goes. For the category of urban transport, the second runner-up is Metro Ride. The first runner-up is One Money. And as the winner, we have Get Parking. For the category of workforce management and efficiency and asset maintenance and verification, second runner-up is SenseGIS Technologies. As the first runner-up, we have Blinkin. And as the winner, we have Xenon Automotive. For For the third category of smart cars, second runner-up is ACUC Innovations. First runner-up, Highway Delight. And as the winner, Sensite Technologies. For the category of People Flow and Customer Insights, the runner-up is Reco Social. And the winning startup is ClueTrack. Lastly, we have a winner under the student team category, awarded to Team Spark from the National Institute of Hearty congratulations to all of our winners, and we wish you all the very best. Now I'd like to request Kritika Murugesan, Director, NASSCOM 10,000 Startups, to kindly give the closing address. Thank you.
Thank you, Inchara. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate all the winners here. It has been a great experience for all of us putting this together. And I'd definitely like to again thank all our partners, mentors, jurors, and a big, big thank you to all our panelists to bring this finale to a conclusion. Thank you very much for being part of this. And of course, a big thank you to the team behind this from 10,000 Startups, as well as I'd like to acknowledge our partners, Rigger House, in putting this whole platform together for this program. So thank you all, and a great congratulations again to all our award winners, and look forward to a bigger, better show next year. Thank you. And